Alright boys, girls, and non-binary people, my name is freaking Nick, and today I want to talk about how Dead by Daylight is nearing its end. And by that, I mean narratively, they're approaching their end game. That's right, another MCU reference, baby! Obviously, being a game with 50 million downloads and probably over 100,000 people are playing it each day, Dead by Daylight won't be shutting down anytime soon. That would be like expecting a pharmaceutical company to just stop price gouging insulin and stuff like that. I've always said I thought Dead by Daylight would end under circumstances beyond their control because the underlying code for the game looks like an Olive Garden entree, but I'm starting to second guess myself now. I believe they're starting to put their pieces in place to wrap up the game in a narrative sense so that they can be prepared for when the game does start to decline. So let's go over how the survivors can escape the entity and how the developers are starting to inch closer to the point where the survivors and killers will be equipped to be able to do this. First, how can the survivors and killers defeat and or escape the entity? This is something that was hinted at in Tome 1 of Dead by Daylight way back in 2019. In it, the observer says, the distinct observation in the specimens chosen by the entity is that they all come from worlds that have failed to understand the metaphysical relationship between their thoughts and the world they live in. This is not by chance. It is, to my mind, self-preservation. Victims who know this truth and have honed their ability to manifest could be poisonous to the entity. So let's break this down a little bit. So the observer is talking about the specimens chosen by the entity, otherwise known as the survivors and killers who are yoinked into the entity's realm. And he says that they come from worlds that have failed to understand the metaphysical relationship between their thoughts and the world they live in. He also says that victims who have honed their ability to manifest could be poisonous to the entity. So what this is basically saying is that there's some sort of hidden jutsu that the survivors and killers have not mastered that people on other worlds have mastered, and that is the ability to manifest. If you watch the cutscenes from Dead by Daylight's Tome lores, you'll see that the observer is able to manifest. He's able to just conjure up like glasses of liquor, golf clubs. He's just able to make whatever he wants out of the entity's fog. So essentially what this whole quote says is that once the survivors and killers are able to just make whatever the hell they want by thinking it into existence, then they will be equipped to defeat the entity. But they first need to learn how to do that. The observer comes from a planet called Terra Primus, where presumably most of the people there, or all of them, are able to manifest. In the same tome, he says that he should be able to manifest anything that he's able to pull from the rifts in the fog using techniques passed down from his family. So this hidden jutsu is something that they just know on his planet. And it's also something that they're trying to share with other planets. They have the ability to just kind of traverse the multiverse into other worlds. They're trying to go to other worlds and help them learn these secrets so that the entire omniverse can be prepared to combat the entity. As a side note, in Vittorio Toscano's lore, he mentions that these people are all known as the Observers. So the Observer is part of the Observers. Hope that makes sense. On the other side of the spectrum, the entity has people who worship it and have supernatural powers, and these are the people that go and they typically will find the killers and survivors for the entity and capture them for it. Both of these groups have influence on the main Terra world where most of the survivors come from, and they take the form of two groups called the Black Veil on the entity's side and the Imperiati, which is on the observer's side. And for most of Dead by Daylight's life cycle, the survivors and killers have been pretty ignorant to all this stuff going on in the background. The only really glimpse of the supernatural we got in the first 4 years of the game was Kate Denson, who was able to escape the entity prior to being captured by the entity. And by escape, I mean she just avoided capture the first attempt. It wasn't until the fall of 2020 with the release of Felix Richter and The Blight that we really started to lean into this kind of supernatural aspect of it, and when the survivors started to show hints of maybe becoming stronger. You see, Felix Richter and the subsequent survivor to come to Dead by Daylight, Elodie Rakoto, they both were children of members of the Imperiati, so their parents were in this cult that was fighting against the entity, and they were part of a small group of children known as the Pariahs. They were meant to kind of carry on the torch once their parents had passed, and their parents did get taken by the entity, but they didn't quite have the chance to carry on. So Felix and Elodie did a little bit of research on the Black Veil, and they kind of started to know about it, and they probably are able to bring their knowledge to the other survivors to let them know what's going on behind the scenes. But it wasn't until Michaela Reed when we started to see survivors that actually had supernatural abilities and may be able to learn how to do this manifesting thing that they've been talking about. Whether it was her herbal tea or the handmade deodorant that she makes, something she did has given her the uncanny ability to be able to scry into other universes and see what other killers had done in their past. She's also described as being able to alter the trial with her supernatural abilities, which is boons. Sorry, killer mains. So with the introduction of Michaela, we kind of have the seeds sown for the survivors to be able to learn how to manifest things and be able to alter what's going on in the entity's realm. The next survivor that really showed some potential in helping everybody else learn how to escape is Hattie Cower. On Earth, she was a psychic investigator who had the uncanny ability to sense where the entity had been. She found places called overlaps, which is where people were abducted by the entity, and they were places where dimensions, as the name would suggest, overlap. In Tome 8, the Observer specifically mentions her as somebody who he feels is going to have the key to escaping the entity's realm due to her ability to find these overlaps and know where dimensions meet. And finally, we have Vittorio Toscano, the most recent survivor to come to Dead by Daylight. In his lore, he was trying to make contact with the observers. He had found hints that they had scattered throughout the earth. They were supposed to give humanity little bits and pieces of knowledge so that they could eventually come to learn how to manifest and learn how to make contact with the observers and traverse to different dimensions. Here we also learned that the goal of the Black Veil was to do something similar, but rather than give humanity little bits and pieces on how to manifest, they were just going to dump all of the knowledge on them at once and just let chaos ensue as people learned how to manifest without knowing how to control it. We also learned that most or all of the observers are now held captive by the entity's forces, and Vittorio sought to find their world so he could help save them and he could help find this place beyond good and evil. Not the Ubisoft game, that thing's never coming out. So we have Felix and Elodie, who grew up knowing about the entity in the Black Veil, as well as the Imperiati, who possibly had contact with the observers. And then with Michaela, we have somebody who shows hints of learning how to manifest by being able to alter the trials in the entity's realm. And then we have Hattie, who's able to track down locations where dimensions overlap and could possibly help find a way out. And then we have Vittorio Toscano, who knows of the existence of the observers and knows that there is a way to get in contact with them and potentially free them from their captivity. Another piece that recently fell into place with Tome 13 is the knowledge that a lot of the family members of the survivors who have been captured by the entity are also in the entity's realm now. It turns out that they had this sort of support group spearheaded by Jordan, Hattie's stepbrother, and he helped them find a location, and they ended up getting transferred to the Observer's tower. The Observer has gone missing. We don't know exactly where he is. He was probably taken by the Black Veil just like the rest of his people. So now the Observer's Tower is inhabited by the family members of a lot of the survivors who are in the entity's realm as well. Of the relatives who went looking for the survivors and are now in the entity's realm, we know that Dwight Fairfield's mom is there, as well as Yui Kimura's mom, Jake Park's parents, and Zarina's mother. However, the group got separated when they arrived in the entity's realm, so we don't know exactly who's okay and who isn't, but we know that Jordan shared his research with them and they were trying to find out how to enter the entity's realm, and unfortunately they did. So not only do we have survivors getting more and more people with the knowledge and capabilities to learn how to defeat the entity, we also have their family members in there looking for them. So I think eventually what's going to happen is they are going to find each other and they're going to collectively learn how to manifest, and that is going to be their key to escape. I don't want to predict any specifics because I will be wrong and I will look like a complete jackass, but I think that all of these pieces are coming together and a lot of them are starting to come together more quickly. And I think the behavior is just trying to get all these pieces in order so that they can just set up this end game. All in all, it's a pretty exciting prospect to think about. Who knows when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, if you think I'm super wrong, if there's something that I may have missed. I want to say thank you to my channel members. Their names are Marsh, Fake Milk, Ornacia, Brotac, and the Main Volley. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and getting access to seeing all these videos a day early. I appreciate all of you, and I will catch everybody on the next video.